My brother stranded my 16-year-old daughter 12,200 miles from home to teach her a lesson in respect. So, I taught him a lesson in responsibility by building a legal case that destroyed him and his wife, and I cut them out of the family forever. Hello, Reddit. I'm not one to post much, but a few months ago, something happened that completely changed how I see family. I used to think that blood meant automatic loyalty. Turns out, it doesn't. What started as a simple family trip ended up showing me just how far people will go when they're eaten up by envy. I'm not looking for sympathy, I just want to tell you how I handled it, step by step, my way, calm, smart, and relentless. My 16-year-old daughter, Sarah, had been thrilled about this family trip for weeks. She's smart, full of energy, and honestly, too good for the mess that is my brother Mike's family. But she adored her cousins. Always has. She helped them pack, made matching bracelets for everyone, and even printed out a little travel checklist. She told me, "Dad, this is going to be the best one ever." I smiled, asked her to take pictures, and reminded her to keep her phone charged. I couldn't go because of work. I'm a doctor, the kind who doesn't just leave because the family wants matching beach shirts. Mike knew that. He promised to look after her as if she were his own. I believed him. Big mistake. 3 days after they left, I was finishing a long shift at the hospital, during one of those quiet hours when the machines are louder than the people. My phone vibrated with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, thinking it was another wrong number, but something told me, pick up. The voice on the other end wasn't just crying, it was shaking. Dad? Dad, it's me. It's Sarah. She was so scared I could barely understand her. Through the sobs, I caught fragments. Melissa took her phone to teach her respect. Her return flight was cancelled, and everyone Mike, Melissa, her cousins they left. They flew home without her. For a few seconds, I said nothing. My mind just stopped. Then everything clicked into place all at once. Her, alone, without a phone, without family, in a foreign country. Where are you right now? I asked, already typing on my computer. I'm outside the hotel. They kicked me out after checkout. They said my name wasn't on the room anymore. When I asked about my ticket, the receptionist checked and told me my return flight had been cancelled. I pressed my hand to my forehead. Okay, listen to me. Do not move from there. Do you understand? Stay in a place with people. I'm bringing you home. A man's voice came on in the background. Some tourist who had lent her his phone said the hotel staff had let her stay in the lobby just long enough to find someone to call me. She had been trying all day. I kept my voice steady, but inside, I was burning. You're going to be okay, Sarah. Just hang on. I'm booking your flight right now. Within minutes, I had her on the next available flight. I called the airline, arranged for an airport escort for her, and sent them her picture and booking details. I've handled smoother surgeries than that phone call, but nothing has ever chilled my blood so much. I told the head nurse I was leaving. I didn't wait for approval. Family emergency, I said. That was all. The drive to the airport felt longer than any shift. My brain replayed her trembling, broken voice. I gripped the steering wheel every time I thought of Melissa with that smug, self-righteous tone she always has, the kind of person who thinks their cruelty is discipline. I also thought of Mike, the coward, surely nodding along to everything she said. He was always like that. As kids, he would lie, and I would take the blame. Some people never outgrow their cowardice. My phone pinged with flight updates every few minutes. I checked them like an automaton, heart pounding, but face calm. That's what medicine teaches you. Stay steady, even when you're burning up inside. At one point, I even let out a bitter laugh. The idea that they could do this and think I would just let it go. I'm not that guy. I've built my entire life on fixing chaos, and this was personal. When I finally reached the airport parking garage, I turned off the engine and sat there for a second, just breathing. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked calm, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. I opened my phone and looked at the last text Sarah sent before she left. "Don't work too hard, Dad. I'll bring you back something cool." I clenched my jaw, went inside, checked the arrivals board, and checked the time. Her flight had just passed the halfway point on the tracker. I still had about 3 hours to wait. 3 hours for the rage to sharpen into something else. This wasn't just neglect, it was intentional, planned. And as soon as I saw my daughter safe, I was going to make damn sure Mikey and Melissa understood exactly who they had messed with. Sitting in that dim waiting area, surrounded by the soft hum of late-night travelers, I realized I wasn't even angry in the usual way. I was focused, cold, precise. They didn't just abandon my daughter. They made the mistake of assuming I'm the kind of man who forgives family misunderstandings. I'm not. I stared at the sliding doors where the next group of passengers would emerge. My hands clenched as I thought about what was coming. They left my little girl alone in another country. That's not a mistake, it's cruelty. I repeated that phrase in my head while I stood in the arrivals section. All the other parents there were smiling. I wasn't. I was still, running through every possible outcome in my mind like a checklist. Then I saw her. Sarah walked through the gate like a ghost of her former self, clutching a small bag as if her life depended on it. Her eyes scanned the crowd once. Then she saw me. In that instant, all the composure I was trying to maintain shattered. She ran into my arms and just held on. She didn't say anything, she just stood there. I didn't ask anything, I just hugged her and said, "You're safe now. I've got you." We walked to the parking garage in silence. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't eaten or slept properly in days. I waited, not pushing. I know how trauma works. You let the silence do the work first. Halfway down the highway, she spoke in a small voice. I tried to stay calm, Dad. I really tried. What happened? She swallowed hard. It started as soon as we landed. Melissa kept saying I was on my phone too much, that I needed to learn to enjoy the trip instead of scrolling, so she took it for the week. I thought she'd give it back at night, but she didn't. She said she was teaching me discipline. I raised an eyebrow. But you answered my texts every time I wrote. Sarah frowned. That wasn't me. It was Melissa. She only gave me the phone when you called. I gripped the steering wheel. Melissa and her teaching moments. The woman has never taught anything but arrogance. Sarah continued, Uncle Mike didn't say anything. He just nodded like she was right. He never says anything when she gets like that. I didn't need her to finish the sentence. I had seen it before. Melissa barking orders, Mike trailing behind like a doormat, pretending to keep the peace while doing nothing. Sarah took a deep breath. At first, it was okay. The cousins were nice. We went to the beach, got ice cream. But then Melissa started picking on me. She said I was showing off because Grandpa was always going on about me. She'd say things like, some kids think being smart makes them better than everyone. I just ignored her. I could picture it all in my head. The fake smiles, the backhanded comments, the cousins looking on uncomfortably. I asked, why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to ruin the trip. I just kept my head down, she replied. That was Sarah, always trying to keep the peace, trying to hold together a family that didn't deserve her effort. She got that from her late mother. She wiped her eyes and continued. When it was time to leave, I started packing. Melissa came in and said my ticket was wrong. She told me her assistant would fix it, so I should wait in the lobby while they loaded the car. I thought they were just checking out. Then she told me to wait with the bags because the van was full and Mike would come back for me after dropping them at the airport. And he didn't come back, I said quietly. She shook her head. No. He didn't. I waited for 3 hours. When I went back to the lobby, the receptionist said the room was cancelled and my name wasn't registered anymore. Then they told me I had to leave because the reservation was over. I clenched my jaw so hard I heard a click. I tried to call them, but Melissa had my phone, Sarah said. I tried to contact my cousin Jessica from the hotel, but she didn't answer. I found out later Melissa told everyone I wanted to stay a few extra days to be independent. She let out a broken laugh. Independent. I had nothing. She looked down at her hands. I sat outside for hours until the hotel security guard asked me to leave. An older woman saw me crying and lent me her phone to call you. That's how I got through. For a moment, I said nothing. I just focused on breathing evenly. My mind wasn't on emotion. It was organizing. Melissa took the phone. Melissa canceled the flight. Mike allowed it. The cousins were forced into silence. It wasn't neglect. It was a plan. When we got home, I parked and turned to her. You did everything right, Sarah. You stayed calm. You kept yourself safe. I'm proud of you. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want to bother you, Dad. You were working. Stop, I said, sharper than I intended. You never, ever have to apologize for needing me. Never. Inside, I made her some food, something simple, soup and toast. She picked at it while I asked quiet questions. Times, names, phrases, every detail mattered. I wrote it all down, pretending we were just chatting. She told me how Melissa had spent the whole week making comments about her not having a real mom and getting special treatment because people felt sorry for her. I didn't react. Not yet. I just kept writing. After she went to bed, I stayed up for a long time, just watching her breathe. Then I went to my desk and opened my laptop. I started pulling up flight records, booking emails, timestamps, everything I could find. Melissa and Mike wanted to play games. I don't bluff. They treated her like she didn't matter, I murmured, my voice low but firm. They're about to find out she does. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, but because I wouldn't. I've worked 24-hour shifts in trauma wards. I know how to run on focus alone. I sat at my desk with black coffee and my laptop, treating this like a medical case. Step 1, collect the facts. Step 2, confirm the source. Step 3, eliminate the infection. First call, the airline. I gave them the booking reference from an old email of Sarah's. The operator sounded half asleep until I mentioned my daughter being stranded overseas. She suddenly woke up. Yes, sir. I see the reservation here, she said, typing quickly. The return ticket was manually cancelled 4 days ago. By whom? It looks like. By a Melissa Grant. The same email that made the original booking. I clenched my jaw. Was a refund issued? Yes. To the same card that paid for the group booking. Not only did she cancel it, she made sure she got the money back. Second call, the hotel. I asked to speak to a manager. They confirmed Sarah's room was checked out at the family's request. I asked who requested it. The manager hesitated. Sir, it was a Melissa Grant. She stated that her daughter had changed her travel plans. I thanked him and hung up. My screen was filling up with notes, timestamps, call logs. It was surgical work, clean, emotionless, precise. Next, I checked the booking chain. The family always used the same travel agent, a woman named Karen who handles Mike's business travel. I called her office. She picked up on the second ring, cheerful as always. Dr. Grant. How was the trip? I didn't go, I said flatly. But tell me, when you booked those tickets, who handled the changes?" Her tone shifted quickly. "Oh, that was Melissa Grant. She sent me an email midweek saying Sarah was staying longer." I kept my voice calm. "Really? And you didn't think to confirm that with me?" "She sounded certain, and the group booking was in her name, so I didn't second-guess it," Karen said. I thanked her, hung up, and exhaled slowly. It all fit together perfectly. Melissa had cancelled the flight, checked her out of the room, and even contacted the travel agent to rewrite the story before I ever found out. I began compiling the evidence screenshots of emails, the hotel invoice, the airline's internal notes on who cancelled the ticket. I saved everything in a folder I named The Case. Old habit. Doctors like to have everything organized when they're about to dissect something ugly. At 9 a.m., my sister Jenny called. She's the only sibling I truly trust. "Hey, are you okay? Mom said Sarah had some travel trouble." I told her everything brief, clinical, without emotion. When I finished, there was silence on the other end. "Oh my God," she finally said. "Mom and Dad think Sarah stayed longer with friends. That's what Mike told them." "Of course he did," I said. "He probably rehearsed that lie while she was sitting outside the hotel." Jenny was furious. "Mom is going to lose her mind when she finds out." "She will. But not yet. I want all the facts on paper first." While we talked, I kept working, copying metadata from the booking emails, downloading the timestamps. Evidence doesn't lie, even if family does. After hanging up with Jenny, I called Mike. He answered on the third ring, sounding relaxed, like he didn't have a care in the world. "Hey, bro. How's Sarah? All sorted?" "Yes," I said. "She's home." "Want to tell me why she had to call me from a foreign country on a stranger's phone?" He let out a little chuckle, that fake, nervous laugh he does when he's cornered. "Don't overreact. She's fine. It was just a mix-up." "A mix-up? You don't leave a 16-year-old stranded overseas with no phone and no return ticket and call it a mix-up." I better be overreacting. Mike went quiet. Then he said, "Melissa told me she had it under control. She said Sarah wanted to stay longer." "Save it," I cut in. "I have the airline records, the hotel records, and the emails from the travel agent. Melissa didn't have it under control, she had it planned." He tried another weak defense. "You know how travel misunderstandings happen. Maybe the system glitched." "Yes," I said dryly. "Funny how the system always glitches in your wife's favor." He mumbled something about talking to Melissa and hung up. I stared at the phone screen for a minute. Then I opened a new document titled Incident Report. I wrote down every word Sarah told me, every phrase from the phone calls, every timestamp. The more I wrote, the calmer I felt. I wasn't shouting, wasn't pacing. I was preparing. By the afternoon, I had a file thick enough to make anyone nervous. I saved copies to an encrypted drive and printed out a few key pages. Then I texted my lawyer friend, Daniel, the kind of guy who's seen enough family lawsuits to keep emotions out of it. "Need a favor. Family matter. Endangerment of a minor. You looking to sue?" Daniel texted back. "That's serious?" "Worse. Sending documents now." I sent the folder and leaned back. The house was quiet except for the sound of the printer spitting out paper. For the first time since that phone call, I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because it was inevitable. Mike and Melissa had acted like Sarah didn't matter, like she was just some kid who would get over it. They forgot who her father is. I picked up my phone and sent one last text to Daniel. "We're going legal." The next morning, I had everything ready. Evidence doesn't lie, and I had enough to crush theirs. It was Saturday, the day of the usual family gathering at my parents' house. Perfect stage. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I wanted to catch them off guard. When Sarah woke up, I told her, we're going to visit Grandma and Grandpa today. You don't have to say anything. Just stay by my side. She hesitated. Will they be there? Yes, I said. And they're going to answer for what they did. We drove in silence. I saw her nervously fiddling with the sleeve of her shirt but trying to stay composed. She had been through enough, and I wasn't going to let her face another second of humiliation. As we pulled into my parents' driveway, I saw Mike's SUV. Of course. The man couldn't look guilty if he tried. Inside, my parents were at the table. Jenny was helping Mom with the dishes. And Mike and Melissa were sitting there like they were royalty, laughing about something. When I walked in, it was like the air was sucked out of the room. Mike's smile froze. Melissa blinked twice, then forced another one. Oh, you came, she said. Yes, I replied, dropping a thick folder onto the table. Wouldn't want to miss a family moment. Mom lit up when she saw Sarah but sensed the tension instantly. Is everything all right? She asked softly. Not yet, I said. But it will be. I sat down across from Mike and Melissa and opened the folder. The pages fanned out. Flight confirmations, hotel checkout records, timestamps, email chains. Melissa's name was on every single one. What is this? Mike asked, feigning confusion like he was reading a foreign language. This, I said calmly, is the paper trail that proves my daughter's flight was manually cancelled by your wife. Her hotel room was checked out early, also by your wife. And you signed off on all of it. Melissa let out a weak laugh. That's ridiculous. There must be some mistake, right? A mistake where your name appears on every single authorization. Curious coincidence, I said. Mike leaned forward, palms open, faking calm. Look, we're sorry Sarah had travel trouble, but you're blowing this out of proportion. It was a chaotic morning. No, I cut him off, sharp. Do not insult my intelligence with that chaos excuse. You left a 16-year-old girl in a foreign country. That's not chaos. It's abandonment. Melissa crossed her arms. We thought she wanted to stay longer. She's always so independent. I leaned back, looking her straight in the eye. Really? Because the hotel manager says you told them she left with you, and the airline says you personally cancelled her ticket. So unless Sarah hacked your email from another country, you're lying. The silence in the room was absolute. Jenny had stopped setting the table and was just staring. My mom had her hand over her mouth. Melissa's mask began to crack. Her lips tightened. Well, maybe if your daughter wasn't everyone's little favorite, people wouldn't be so sick of her. The words hung in the air like a slap. What did you just say? My father's voice cut through the silence. He rose slowly, his face red. You left my granddaughter stranded because you were jealous? Melissa's jaw trembled. I didn't mean that. He slammed his hand on the table so hard the plates rattled. Be quiet. Mom gasped. Jenny was frozen, her eyes wide. Sarah, who had been standing near the door, looked down, trying not to cry. I stayed seated, calm. You know, I said slowly, I thought people exaggerated about how petty jealousy can be, but this is a whole other level. You humiliated a child because you couldn't stand that she was loved. Mike tried to intervene. Hey, don't do this to my wife. I cut him off. No, you don't get to defend her. You were responsible for Sarah on that trip. You allowed this. You let her get stranded outside a hotel with no phone and no way home while you were sightseeing. You were her guardian, Mike, and you failed. He tried to argue, but there was nothing to say. His silence said it all. I stood up, gathered the papers, and turned to my parents. I didn't come here to fight. I came here to show you the truth. Then I looked at Mike. We're done. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Sarah walked to my side. As we headed for the door, I heard Melissa sobbing behind us, already trying to spin the story. You're tearing this family apart, she cried. My father's voice followed me, loud and final. No, he said. You did. He paused, his voice low but firm. And you, Mike? You're no son of mine. Get out. As soon as the door closed, Sarah let out a breath like she'd been holding it for hours. Was that okay? She asked quietly. I nodded. You handled it perfectly. We got in the car. I called Daniel before I even started the engine. We're a go, I said. Got their reaction on record? He asked. Clear as day. Good, he said. Then we moved forward. As I drove away, I saw my father in the window, standing beside my mother, his face hard and resolved. For the first time in years, I saw the man I grew up respecting, the one who didn't tolerate cruelty, no matter who it came from. I drove away without looking back. Whatever came next wasn't a family matter anymore. It was legal. 3 days later, the doorbell rang just after dinner. I checked the camera. Melissa. Alone. The same woman who used to strut around like she owned the family now looked like she'd been chewed up and spit out. I opened the door halfway, just enough to make her feel unwelcome. Can we talk? She asked, her voice trembling. I crossed my arms. I don't think there's anything left to say. Please, she said, her eyes darting around nervously like she was being hunted. Just 5 minutes. I need to explain. I didn't answer. I just stepped aside, saying nothing. Silence is scarier than yelling. She walked in, clutching her purse like a shield. By the time she reached the living room, her facade crumbled. I screwed up, okay, she blurted out. I didn't mean for it to get so out of control. I sat on the edge of the sofa, motionless. You canceled her ticket, took her phone, and left her in another country. That's not an accident. It's a choice. She started pacing. I just wanted her to stop acting like she's better than everyone. You have no idea what it's like. Everyone comparing my kids to your perfect daughter all the time. Grandpa this, Grandma that. It's always, Sarah is so polite, Sarah is so smart, Sarah is so mature. Do you think that doesn't hurt my kids? I tilted my head slightly. So your solution was to abandon her? Her breathing quickened. You don't get it. She doesn't even have a mom, and yet everyone treats her like she's some miracle child. My kids have 2 parents, and nobody even notices them. That line hit harder than she intended. Not because it hurt me, but because it revealed everything. The jealousy, the bitterness, the reason behind it all. I stood up slowly, took my phone out of my pocket, and placed it on the coffee table, recording. Keep talking, I said quietly. She didn't notice. She was spiraling. Mike said it was too much, that your daughter always gets all the sympathy. At every family function, your dad brings her up like she's the only grandchild that matters. She dropped her purse on the floor, tears streaming down her face. But it got out of hand. I thought you'd be mad, maybe yell at me, but I didn't think you would. She stopped mid-sentence, realizing what she had just admitted. I looked her in the eyes. You didn't think what? That I'd expose you? That I'd hold you accountable? That I'd sue you? Her face fell. Then she saw the little red light on my phone, recording. Her voice cracked into a shriek. Are you recording me? Yes, I said, unfazed. I like to keep records. She lunged for the phone, but I picked it up before she could touch it. You can't do this. You'll destroy my family, she cried. You already did that, I said, stone cold. She fell to her knees, sobbing, her hands clasped together. Please, I didn't want to hurt her. I was just angry. You don't know what it's like when everyone loves someone else's kid more than your own. You're right, I said. I don't know what it's like to be jealous of a child, because I'm not pathetic. She froze, tears falling, her mouth open but no sound coming out. Then, like a switch had been flipped, her sorrow morphed into venom. You think you're so perfect, don't you? Always the hero. If you weren't so smug, maybe people wouldn't hate you. This is your fault. You made me look bad. There she was again, the real her, the arrogant, bitter woman who thought playing the victim erased her cruelty. I leaned forward. You stranded a child in another country. You ruined your own life. Don't ever show up at my door again. She stared at me, trembling. Then she scrambled to her feet and ran out. The door slammed so hard the frame vibrated. I let out a slow breath, saved the recording, and labeled it, Melissa Confession. Then I sat down and listened to the first 30 seconds again, making sure every word was clear. It was perfect. My state allows for one-party consent recordings, so it was admissible. That night, I sent the file to two people, Daniel, my lawyer, and my father. No explanation. Just the audio file with the subject line, proof. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Dad. His voice was shaking, but not with sadness, with fury. Send me everything, he said. Every document, every recording, every text. Are you sure? I asked. I've never been more sure of anything, he replied. When we hung up, I knew two things. 1, Melissa wasn't going to sleep soundly for a very long time. 2, I was going to make sure her confession didn't become gossip. It was going to become evidence. I'm not the type to shout or make threats. I build cases, gather proof, and make things official. So when I said I'd make Melissa's confession evidence, I meant it. By Monday morning, Daniel had filed the civil suit, negligence and infliction of emotional distress. It was no longer just a family drama, it was an official case with my daughter's name on it. Everything was documented, the cancelled flight, the hotel checkout, the audio confession, the call logs. Months later, when the case went to court, the courtroom was quiet, formal, tense. The air in that room felt heavy, like everyone knew something irreversible was about to happen. I sat beside Daniel while Melissa and Mike sat across from us, pretending to be shocked that it had come to this. When the airline representative took the stand, I didn't look at them. I looked at the judge. The representative testified calmly, reading directly from the system. The return ticket for passenger Sarah Grant was manually cancelled by Melissa Grant. The refund was processed to the same card that paid for the original booking. Melissa's eyes darted around the room, looking for someone to blame. Next, the hotel manager spoke. The early checkout of the family suite was requested by Melissa Grant. She stated that the teenager in their party had decided to stay with friends. We have her email confirming that statement. Daniel handed the printout to the judge. The sound of the paper sliding across the desk was louder than their entire defense. Mike tried to keep his composure, but he looked like he was about to crumble. When it was his turn, Daniel wasted no time. Mr. Grant, he said, did you authorize this early checkout? Mike cleared his throat. I wasn't aware she cancelled the ticket. I assumed everything was fine. Daniel didn't blink. So, these emails with your signature on them, the ones approving the cancellations and hotel changes, those aren't yours? Mike froze. He had no answer. Then came the part that shattered any sympathy that might have been left in the room, the audio recording. Melissa's voice echoed through the speakers, clear and bitter. She doesn't even have a mom, and yet everyone treats her like she's special. My kids get nothing. You could feel the shift in the room. The judge's expression went from neutral to disgusted. Melissa tried to fake a breakdown, covering her face with her hands, whispering, I didn't mean that. I said nothing. I just sat there and watched her realize she had built her own cage. Then my father took the stand. Grandpa looked tired but resolute, with that contained fury that shakes rooms. My granddaughter was abandoned by her own family, he said, his voice strong. Melissa and Mike lied to all of us. We thought Sarah was staying with friends. They led us to believe that while she was stranded in another country. That's not family. That's cruelty. Even the judge leaned back in his chair after that. When it was all over, the judge found them liable. The court ordered damages for emotional distress and travel costs, plus full reimbursement of legal fees. The judgment and findings of fact were made a matter of public record. The court called their conduct gross negligence and emotional abuse. The gavel came down once, and it was over. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled. It wasn't a victory, it was a confirmation. Outside the courtroom, Grandpa was waiting for me. He didn't say much. He just handed me a folder and said, "The will is being rewritten. They're out." In the days that followed, the consequences spread like wildfire. Melissa's reputation in the neighborhood collapsed. The school parents stopped inviting her to events. The PTA quietly removed her. Her name became synonymous with cruelty. People didn't say it out loud anymore, they whispered it. Mike's job was the next to go. His company put him on administrative leave while they reviewed his ethics, citing inappropriate public conduct. He tried to pass it all off as a misunderstanding, but everyone knew what it was about. They thought they could bury what they did with excuses and fake tears. Instead, they buried themselves. I didn't gloat. I didn't post anything. I didn't even mention it again. I just went home, sat with Sarah, and helped her plan her future. She was starting to smile again, to sleep through the night. We talked about college, about art, about travel, things that were no longer tied to fear. She asked me once, "Dad, do you feel better now that it's all over?" I shook my head. It's not about feeling better. It's not revenge. It's a correction. Because that's the thing about justice. When it's real, it doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be done. The months after the trial passed quietly. Life didn't snap back to normal, but it began to find a new, better course. Sarah was herself again, focused, funny, sharp. She started volunteering at the hospital on weekends, helping kids with art projects while I worked nearby. Watching her walk those halls where I was so often exhausted gave me a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. She talked about studying psychology. She said she wanted to help kids who don't have parents to stand up for them. I never told her how much that statement hit me, I just nodded and said, "You'd be good at that." The lawsuit was fully closed out. The judge's written ruling landed like a hammer: Mike and Melissa Grant, liable for negligence and the intentional infliction of emotional distress. It wasn't jail time, but it wasn't a slap on the wrist either. They were ordered to attend counseling, pay a hefty fine, and were barred from unsupervised travel with minors for 5 years. The judge made it clear in her final statement, this was not an accident. It was a deliberate act to humiliate and isolate a minor. Seeing those words in the official record was better than any apology. Following the public ruling, his company finished their ethics review. The result was predictable: termination for unprofessional conduct. Just like that, Mike's pristine business image vanished. Meanwhile, the family lawyer finalized the revisions to the will. Mike and Melissa were formally disinherited. The new will was signed, witnessed, and filed immediately. Grandpa didn't just say it, he made it official. If they want a family, he said, they can build their own. But he didn't punish the cousins. The kids weren't at fault. They were stuck in the middle, and Grandpa made sure they were still part of the family. They started spending weekends at his house, quiet visits, with no mention of their parents. Sarah sometimes joined, helping with homework or just hanging out. It was awkward at first, but kids adapt faster than adults. One evening, I dropped her off at Grandpa's and watched from the car as she laughed with them on the porch. For a second, it almost looked like it used to. Not perfect, but peaceful. I went inside to check on Grandpa. He was at the kitchen table, looking over paperwork. "You look tired," I told him. He let out a short laugh. "Tired is my new normal." Then he looked at me and said, "Never thought I'd see the day my own son's name was crossed out of my will." "You did what you had to do," I said. He nodded slowly. "So did you." The house felt lighter without Mike's voice, without Melissa's fake laugh filling the living room. For the first time, family dinners didn't feel like a minefield. Sarah handled the aftermath better than Agnanino bitterness, no talk of revenge, just focus. She didn't bring them up unless someone else did. When she got her acceptance letter for a summer psychology program, she said, "Maybe I can help kids who think no one is listening to them." I told her, "You already do." Meanwhile, I stayed busy between work at the hospital, the legal paperwork, and helping Grandpa manage the trust funds for the cousins. I didn't have much time to think about the rubble we'd left behind. But sometimes, driving past Mike's old office building or seeing one of Melissa's old PDA friends in town pretend not to see me, I couldn't help but think, good. Actions have weight. One afternoon, Daniel called to say the case was officially closed. "It's done," he said. "Good," I replied. "Let's keep it that way." That evening, Sarah sat with me in the living room. "You didn't just protect me. You made them answer for it," she said. I looked at her with a half-smile. "That's what family does." She rested her head on my shoulder. "We're a good team, aren't we?" "The best," I said. The world outside kept turning. New cases at work, new routines, a new normal. The names Mike and Melissa Grant faded into whispers, but in our small world, balance had been restored. You can't choose your blood, but you can choose who stays in your family. And mine, finally, felt clean again.